First thing, find the slope of the following graphs and then decide if the graph is a representation of a proportional relationship. Let's look at the first one. Slope. Remember, when we do slope, we have to have 2 points that hit the corner of a square. So you can take the one in the middle and then maybe this one right here. It doesn't matter as long as it's hitting the corner exactly like that. There's a couple other points you could pick right here at -3 is -1 or -6, -2, and then at 6, 2. That also works. Those are all good choices. I like these 2 points, so I'm going to go with them. So let's make that triangle. We're just finding the slope.
That 2 or 3? That's 2.
Let's count below the triangle. So it's 1, 2, 3 for that horizontal change. And then the vertical change is how long? 1. Okay, so our slope would be what, Elise? Positive 1/3. And it's positive because slope would be going up the mountain. He says puff, puff, positive from left to right. So it has to be positive 1/3. Now, let's answer the question, is it a proportional relationship? Don't answer it yet. Proportional, 2 requirements. Has to start at 0, 0, and it has to be linear. Let's start with linear. Is this linear?
Yep.
Tyler, why is it linear? It's a straight line. Does it start at 0, 0?
Yes.
Can someone raise your hand and explain how you know it does start at 0, 0? Olivia? Yeah, it crosses through the middle. So proportional is when it goes directly through the middle. Remember the starting point on a graph, or the y-intercept, is where it crosses this y-axis. So this is 0, 0. And so it is a straight line. It does go through the center of the graph at 0, 0. Yes, it is proportional because it's linear and has, I'm going to say y-intercept right now. That's the same thing, the starting point. Y-int is how you're going to see me abbreviate it pretty much from here on out because I don't want to take the time to write it. Y-intercept of 0, 0. So if it goes to the middle and it's a straight line, it's proportional. So then, is this going to be puff, puff, positive, or nice, negative? So it's -3/2. Is it proportional? No. Alice, why not? Great. Y-intercept is not 0, 0. What is it, Alice? I don't even know what that is. Approximately...
-1, -1. Oh.
It's right here. Like 0, -1.5? Well, it's not 0. We know that for sure. So because it does not go through the center, it is not proportional, even though it is linear. A unit rate is the slope written as a fraction. That's it. Which most of the time we already have the slope written as a fraction. Please write this down. And here's an example. We've got y is equal to 3x minus 1. Okay, the slope of that is 3 because it's a rate of change. You can write that as 3/1. Just put it over 1. And that would represent the rise over the run, which is the same thing as a vertical change over the horizontal change. Sebastian, what's my slope for y equals 4x?
I don't know. 0?
That's my starting point. The slope is the same thing as the rate of change. So Olivia, help me out.
4.
4 is my slope because it's the rate of change. It's happening over and over and over. So my slope is 4, but we want to write it as a fraction. So Bella, what can I do to write it as a fraction? Grace, what can I do?
4/1.
Yes. Okay, next one. We've got negative 3x. Y equals negative 3x. Riley, what's my slope? Negative 3. And how do I make it into a fraction? Over 1. We can always make whole numbers like this into a fraction if we put it over 1. Moving on. Tyler, what's the slope for y equals 3/4 x?
3/4.
Great. And it's already a fraction, so you're done. So remember, slope is the number in front of the x, or rate of change, the exact same thing. Xavion, what's the slope for y equals negative 1/5 x? What? What'd you say? I just couldn't hear you. Okay. It's already a fraction, so you already have it as a unit rate. And then the last one is a little bit tricky. You don't see a number in front of the x. What's it going to be, guys?
0.
No. 1.
That yesterday and you said I was wrong.
No, the number after it would be a 0. So the number in front of the x has to be a 1 because there's one x there. Jack, what's my slope for this?
4.
And how do I make it into a fraction? What can I do to make it into a fraction? 1 on the bottom. 1/1. Okay. First thing we do is figure out the y-intercept, the starting point, and graph it. So it's going to be a point. You have to figure out where the equation is starting. The second thing you're going to do is write the slope as a fraction. And explain it. You'll see what I mean in a second. The last thing we do is graph the, let's say, rise over the run, which is the same thing as vertical change over the horizontal change from the y-intercept then reverse the other way. Hold on, I'm going to switch this. From the y-intercept to the right, then reverse. We're always going to go to the right first. First equation on the graph is y equals negative 2x. When we talk about the y-intercept, it's the exact same thing as the starting point, which for an equation is a number by itself. Do you see a number by itself? I do not. So remember yesterday we talked about we have to do the plus 0. If you don't see a number by itself, add plus 0. So now, George, looking at this now, what number is by itself? What number in this equation is by itself? What? Negative 2's got the x by it. Yeah, so 0 is by itself, so your y-intercept is going to be 0, 0. That's my y. So let's take that y-intercept, and I'm going to graph it right there. This is where we start, which is why we graph it first. Now we're going to write the unit rate, which is the slope. Brandy, what's my unit rate for this? My slope is -2, so I'm going to write -2. It's not a fraction. What should I do?
Make it a fraction.
Over 1. Now, this is going to be nice negative. So is slope dude going to go up the mountain or down the mountain? Down. Here's what I need you to write. We're explaining what this fraction means right now so we graph it correctly. My students who do this are successful in graphing. My students who do not do this are not as successful, okay? He goes down 2, and you remember what he said? Slope dude always skis to the right. So he's always going to go down to right 1. Always right first. So you already got your starting point graphed. And so now we go to this middle point. And we are going to literally go down to right 1. And graph a point. Do that right now. Now, you need to go as far as you can to the right. So we can keep going. Now we're at this point. Down to right 1 more. Can I go again?
Yeah.
Down to right again. I want this graph to be this line to go as far as it can. Now it says reverse the other way. I mean, go back to your starting point and now go backwards. It's got to be a straight line. So now you're going to go left 1, up 2. Left 1, up 2 again. Left 1, up 2. So you're literally doing the opposite. After you have all the points graphed, what do you think we're going to do? Draw a line through it. Connect the dots. It should be a straight line. If you do not get a straight line, you did something wrong because it's our unit on linear functions. Mine's going to look a little rough. If you're like me and you have a hard time drawing straight lines, if I see your points, I will accept your points. But you got to have some kind of line drawn through them. I don't see a number by itself, so what should I do, William Landreth? Plus 0. So what's my starting point, William? 0, 0. Okay, let's graph it right now. 0, 0 is right in the center. Seamus, what's my slope? And it's already written as a fraction. So 4/3 is my slope. Now we have to interpret this. It's positive because I don't see a negative sign. So is slope dude going up or down? Up the mountain. Puff, puff, positive. Up 4, right 3. And in case you're wondering, why is the up or down going on the top? It's because this represents vertical change over horizontal change. Rise over run. So up or down has to go on the top. The bottom's always going to say right, whatever number that is. So now go to your starting point in the middle and literally go up 4, right 3, and graph a point. Can I go any farther?
No, ma'am.
No, so go back to the middle and reverse.
Go down.
Down 4, left 3.
I'm finished. I'm just doing it.
You gotta connect the dots and make your best line that you can. Hopefully better than mine, because mine is pretty squiggly.